Hello. Hello, everybody. As people are joining us for Ask the Expert October edition, we're super excited. I'm actually going to share my screen so that y'all will see the where we're going to be starting here. As you come in, feel free to jump on the chat, say hello, let us know where you're calling in from. I am in North Carolina and it was a beautiful day. We're starting to get a little fall. I'm super excited. Where's everybody else calling in from?
That is Seattle and New York City.
Very nice. Thank you, Anna. Can't do two things at one time, clearly.
I'm in Washington, D.C.
Yeah. Steve, you have your hand up. I'm not sure how I can help, but if you can send it into the chat to me. So this is a webinar format, as you will remember in the Ask the Expert. So it is presented as a webinar. Hopefully y'all can hear me well. We're going to introduce our experts that are here today, our panel, and we have some exciting news tonight. So welcome everybody. Keep saying hello in the chat, and I'm going to get started by telling you that in Ask the Expert, we have opportunities to ask questions under the Q&A. So on your panel on the bottom there, it will say Q&A or question. You can put a question in there. If we don't get to your question, we promise we will get back in touch with you. We save all of that information. But we are taking questions relative to research and to our research areas that will be discussed tonight. You also feel free to give kudos and hellos in the chat section. It's a way to be social and it's really nice. Again, we will get to your questions. If we don't, please also always feel free to send a question to answers@aphasia.org. We check this multiple times a day and we can absolutely get back in touch with you. Also, a day next week, we have a group called After the Expert. And After the Expert was a conversation group that we added to our schedule because there's so much great information that comes out of an Ask the Expert, and everyone's kind of left like, I didn't get to say anything. So what's really great is that the Wednesday after Ask the Expert from 12 to 1 Eastern time, we get together on Zoom and everybody's open. Like, you won't be a webinar format, it'll be a group. So you can talk about research, we can ask questions, and you, all the panel is welcome to join, but don't need to. But we will be here, and probably Catherine and myself will be here to chat about everything. We also have the opportunity for professionals, speech pathologists, to get 1 professional development hour towards ASHA certification. At the end of the presentation, if you watch the whole thing live, we will give you a QR code to get that certificate. You cannot get that certificate, unfortunately, if you don't watch it live. And I know a lot of people watch our Ask the Experts on recording on our YouTube channel. So just an FYI on that. I also wanted to remind you, and you should have gotten your newsletter today, that Speaking Out finished up last weekend. I think I'm still tired from that 2 days of amazing presentations and panels. We just finished uploading everything to YouTube, and you will be getting a newsletter out that reminds you of how to access all of that. It will also be on our website. So you'll be able to access every panel, every story that you missed on the Speaking Out. So that's, I think it was about 12 hours of programming. So that'll be fun. Okay, I'm not sure why that slide was there. I am going to stop sharing my screen. And I get the opportunity to introduce our panel today. So I am just, okay. Something happened to my PowerPoint. Hold on 1 second. Okay, let me go back to sharing my screen. I apologize. Halifax, Canada. Very nice. Thank you for joining. I'm going back to this presentation to see what happened here. Okay. Now we should be able to go ahead. Okay, so I get to introduce actually four tonight, wonderful researchers, and the first three will be presenting because they are winners, recipients of our grants from last year. Not all of them are here. That's how many we were able to give out. But first, I want to introduce Dr. Amy Vogel-Eyny. Is if I pronounce that right? Eyny. And I'm very bad at pronunciation. So Amy is an assistant professor at CUNY Hunter College, a New Yorker there, clinical specialist at Rusk, and a clinician researcher focused on developing rehab strategies that are both meaningful and useful for people with communication challenges. Her research centers on lexical retrieval, which really is finding that word. Everybody with aphasia says, I know what I want to say, but I can't get that word. She's looking at that across healthy aging, post-stroke aphasia, and primary progressive aphasia. She combines her academic work at Hunter College with clinical expertise at Rusk. And next we have Dr. Mara Steinberg Lowe, and Mara, which, I love the name, is assistant professor also at CUNY, Queens College, and a practicing speech language pathologist. She specializes in the assessment and treatment of neurogenic communication disorders, and her research focuses on cognitive skills that support language processing in both healthy individuals and also people with communication difficulties. And finally, I'm going to have Sophie help me because she has a beautiful last name, hyphenated last name, and both names are a little challenged. But Sophie, give me your name in pronunciation.
Sophie Arheix-Parras.
Isn't that beautiful? Is it French?
Yes.
Because I took French for like 6 years and I can't speak anything but oui, oui. And no. Sophie is a speech language pathologist and also a researcher. She works at the University of South Carolina in a lab that studies how the brain understands words. She got her PhD in France, where she studied a treatment called RTMS, which you may have heard of, a kind of brain stimulation that may help with aphasia. Her work looks at how to personalize treatment to help each person recover better after a stroke. Sophie's excited to help connect science and therapy for people with aphasia. So I'm thrilled to have you guys. We also invited a lifesaver, godsend, to the National Aphasia Association, is on our professional advisory council, and has just been extremely helpful to the NAA over the last few months to work on our research area of our website. And so I'm excited to introduce Dr. Anna Kasdan. Anna works in science and health policy at the United States Department of Veteran Affairs. She helps with research on women veterans, brain injuries, and how to include veterans in research. Inclusion is huge for us, so I'm thrilled. She has helped create a national survey about brain injury research, and she has her PhD in neuroscience. So her research looked at how the brain processes music and language to help people with aphasia. And Anna also helped run an aphasia choir. You got all the music people excited that you're here. She also helped write a research paper in aphasia-friendly language that won an award. That type of research is what we connected on first. So you're going to hear how aphasia-friendly research results is so important for people with aphasia on our website. So we're thrilled that Anna's here too. And I am going to stop sharing my screen here, and I'm going to introduce you all again and say welcome. Thank you so much for coming. Sophie is going to start us off with the discussion. Now, as I did mention, Sophie and Amy and Mara are all recipients of National Aphasia Association grants. We recently increased the amount of grants that we give away to researchers. Not give, they have to work very hard for them, but so last year we were able to give $30,000 worth of grants. Each of the researchers got $10,000 towards their grant. So it's so thrilled to kind of come around circle and hear you guys and what your research has been doing, what you're happy about, and hopefully the NAA has really helped you bring this to a national level. So Sophie, I'm going to have you start.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, let me just share my screen. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Um, okay,
You
let
want to
me.
put it in slideshow?
Yeah, sorry.
There you go.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you so much for this great opportunity to be here today. I'm super excited about this Ask the Expert webinar. And thank you so much for the NAA to organize everything. And I'm excited to show you what I've been doing with the Barbara Martin Award from last year. And so today I will talk about repetitive transcranial magnetic stimulation in post-stroke aphasia and the study I did focusing on that. So as you know, a stroke occurs abruptly, and in many cases, it can lead to difficulty to speak and or to understand language, a condition called aphasia, and it occurs in about 1/3 of post-stroke people. And because it affects language, it will have a major impact on quality of life. It will affect the social life, the family life, and the working life of the patient. Thankfully, there is way to recover from aphasia. And the first one you all know, is speech language therapy. It's definitely the gold standard. However, it often doesn't lead to complete recovery, and that's why, as a speech pathologist, my research is mostly focused on other way to improve language, such as non-invasive brain stimulation. And today I will talk about RTMS, what we call RTMS, so repetitive transcranial magnetic stimulation. So it's not something you do speech therapy or brain stimulation. You can combine both, and that's why I found this very interesting. So what do we know about RTMS and how it's working? So this is my supervisor, actually. So you can see here, this is working like that. So you have kind of this coil here, and you send electricity in this coil, and this electricity in this coil will induce a magnetic field. And this is what you expect to do to put on the brain. And because of this magnetic field, it will induce what we call a neuronal depolarization. And so we can kind of induce inhibition or facilitation of certain brain areas. And so how is it working in post-stroke aphasia? So as you know, in post-stroke aphasia mostly occur after a left hemispheric stroke. So you have here a left hemispheric stroke. And because of this left stroke, what research have found is that there is an hyperactivation of the right hemisphere and hypoactivation of the left hemisphere. So the objective here with our stimulation is to put inhibitory stimulation towards the right hemisphere to kind of go back to the balance that existed before the stroke. So this is the principle that we are using after a stroke. And it has already actually shown good improvement for post-stroke people. So we have studies showing that there is improvement thanks to RTMS in different language domain, such as naming, but also comprehension and communication. It's also applicable to different stage after the stroke, so subacute before 6 months, but also at a chronic stage. And I've been working with people that were years after the stroke, and we were still able to have some language improvements. So that's the good points. However, the main kind of negative point I've been working on, and that was what this study is about, is that, well, we know that there is very diverse patient profiles. So we don't have one type of aphasia. There is plenty different type of aphasia because there is plenty different type of people. So we have such diverse pattern of language difficulties, but we actually have only one cortical target. So we have only one part of the brain that we are targeting in most study, which is the inferior frontal gyrus that you may know as Broca's area. So the question we want to answer is, how do we make RTMS works for everyone? How do we make it work better so we have more improvement, more language improvement? And that's something I'm super interested in. How do we make it easy to use in clinics? Because that's the goal, right? We have research, and what we want is to bridge the gap between research and clinic settings. So how do we do so? We have clear guidelines for clinicians, so SLPs can use RTMS for patients in clinical settings. That's the ultimate goal. So my idea for this study was, what if we could choose the cortical target? So instead of this unique cortical target for everyone, what if we can choose the cortical target based on something simple, easily accessible, which is clinical characteristics. So difficulty, what type of difficulty the person has with her language, with the language. So this is kind of a representation of different type of areas. So you see the two brain hemispheres and different type of areas that are involved in language. So you see there is a lot of different brain areas involved in language. And the classic cortical target I was talking about is this one. Oh, actually, it's not this one. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I don't know why I put it here. It's right here, which is Broca's area, and you see it's really a small part compared to all the other areas that are involved in language. So it's only this part here. I'm so sorry. I apologize for that. So our idea was to try a new target, and by a new target, I mean this area here, which is called the anterior temporal lobe. And this anterior temporal lobe is actually very important for what we call lexicosemantic processes. So my thinking was, what if for people that will have difficulty to name objects, for example, instead of naming this a donut, they will say something else as a cupcake. So that type of difficulties, but also difficulty to find words, that type of difficulty specifically, what if for those people, we will target this area with our brain stimulation? So that's what I did. And we included 3 persons with chronic mild aphasia, and they had this type of impairment, so what we call lexicosemantic impairments. They didn't have any phonological impairments. So for example, repetition of words was okay for them. And we included them during 4 weeks. So they were coming every day during 4 weeks, 5 times a week. And they receive 10 stimulation 5 times a week during 2 weeks. So for those 3 participants, we look at different type of language improvement, potential improvements. And today I'm presenting the improvement in picture naming. So just, you probably already did that, naming a picture. And so we look at the accuracy, how accurate they were to find the correct word. And also we were looking at reaction time, because sometimes it's also a question of improving reaction time, and you can have a big improvement of quality of life just because the words are coming quickly. So what we found is that for 2 participants, we had an improvement in accuracy, And for reaction time, we had two other participants that improved in reaction time. So overall, all our participants improved after the stimulation. So that means that this new cortical target worked as a potential cortical target to stimulate for post-stroke aphasia. And it also shows that we can individualize our RTMS based on something simple, which is clinical characteristic behavioral errors. So that was really interesting because we usually individualize our SLP approach, for example, the speech therapy, but based on clinical behavior, but we don't do that for RTMS. So that was the idea here. So what's next? On a very short term, I'm going to do almost the exact same study, but this time I'm going to look at some reading impairments because one of my patients in this study mentioned she felt some improvement in reading and she was able to read more after the stimulation. So I want to dig that a little bit more. So this is for short term. And for a very long term, my big objective is to develop clinical guidelines that are easy to implement so we can use RTMS in post-stroke aphasia in clinical settings in addition to speech language therapy. So many clinical and research perspective. I thank you very much for your attention. And I want to thank my beautiful lab here in the University of South Carolina. I thank also the National Aphasia Association for the grant that allowed me to do this research. And also because this is super important, all the participants that were included in this research that taught me a lot, including resilience and well, aphasia research progress only through your contribution. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you so much, Sophie. I really love how you ended that, to tell you the truth, about the importance of persons with aphasia offering their experience, their lived experience, their concerns or questions. That is what fuels all of this, right? So certainly funding helps, and certainly all these colleagues that you've had help as well. I'm going to have you stop sharing your screen just a sec, and we'll if there's any questions for Sophie, you can put them in the Q&A. Anna and I will be watching that. And the panel themselves, if you guys have questions, is also great. And we are proud to be able to fund this research because of your focus on marrying clinical. You know, everybody says, I go to speech therapy, but is that it? What else can I possibly do? And so I love that you're questioning that. Does anyone have any questions before we move on? You can feel free to keep putting them in the Q&A, and we will take some time before the rest of the announcements. But
Question actually, Sophie, for you, which is, you mentioned a future goal of wanting to bring our TMS into the clinic, and I'm curious what you see as maybe some of the biggest barriers there, and maybe also what are some of the more achievable barriers that you see as something that you could tackle right away?
So it's actually so in France, it has been allowed to be used as a clinical tool. To the best of my knowledge, we are the first country to do that, which is kind of super cool. But actually, it's been maybe 2 years, but I don't think it's not really working. And I think the main barrier is because we don't have clear clinical guidelines on how to use it. So that's super cool. We are the first country, blah, blah, blah. But actually, no one is really using it because we are missing some steps. So I think we are kind of too early. So I think it will come also to other countries, but maybe when we will have clear guidelines on how to use it. And it's not something super hard to teach also, because SLPs can learn it super easily. It's not very hard, but we need guidelines. How, what target, what parameters, how to use it.
That's a really good point. That's a great question too, is, what's in the way of getting this to be more commonly used? And hopefully these guidelines could be transferable to the United States, to other places, Canada, to places that want to incorporate it. There is one question also from one of our audience members that asks, what is the strength of the magnet and the electrical current? I think everybody always has that question.
So it's not really comparable. For example, an MRI will have a very stronger magnetic current, so it's really mild compared to it, and it doesn't go super deep into the brain. It's really just the neocortex, and the strength of the stimulation is also individualized based on some measure we do. So yeah, that's what I
It
can.
will vary depending on the person.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Sophie, very much. I could talk to you forever on this, but we are going to introduce Mara and Amy again and ask that you share what you all have been working on thanks to the NAA's grant.
Great. Can you see my screen okay now?
Yep.
Wonderful. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Mara, for that introduction. And thank you, Sophie, for your talk. I have lots of questions too that I could maybe save for later. So Mara and I are super excited to be here tonight. And we just want to kick it off by sincerely thanking the National Aphasia Association for supporting this work through the inaugural Outdrive Aphasia PPA grant. Our funded project is entitled Personalized Word Naming and Space Retrieval in Primary Progressive Aphasia, or to keep it short, PPA. So we'll be sharing a little bit about our research and how this work connects to the National Aphasia Association's mission for supporting people living with primary progressive aphasia. And of course, Mara and I would also like to thank everyone here tonight. So that includes individuals living with aphasia, care partners, other professionals, because your support, your feedback, and engagement make this kind of research possible. So thank you for that. So in this slide, I'm going to talk about what PPA is and what our research is about. So PPA is a brain condition that slowly makes language harder over time. So it gets harder to reach perhaps the words, the sentences, the sounds you're reaching for. It's different from aphasia that's caused by a stroke or injury, and our research is testing a way to help people with primary progressive aphasia keep important words. So in our study, each person chooses words that matter the most to them. Research shows that when people practice personal words, those words get easier to say in everyday life. So for example, let's say someone wanted to practice the word pasta in therapy or at home because they like to order it when they go out to eat. I mean, I would fall into that camp. So pasta here would be a personal and important word to target in therapy because it relates to your everyday lived experience. Our goal is to keep these important words strong and easy to use and accessible for as long as possible. Now, we all have words that are personal to us. In our study, we look at personal words in everyday categories that are part of daily communications. We're looking at things like the foods you eat, so bread here. We're looking at household items we use. We're looking at hygiene words like toothbrush, and even things like the clothing you wear. These are the kinds of words that people might choose to work on in our study. Of course, we know that this only represents a small part of daily life. There are so many other words tied to our families, our friends, our hobbies, our work, and different places that shape our stories, our lived experiences. So language is deeply personal. It's one of the ways that we express ourselves. It's also one of the ways that we take part in life and one of the ways that we connect with other people. So we know that speech language therapy helps people with primary progressive aphasia. That's part of the reason we're all here tonight. So previous research has shown that too, so that helps. And our study adds something new to this. What we're looking at is a computer-based flashcard program for home practice. And it looks like this. This is what you would see if you were practicing at home using the program. And we're using a method called spaced retrieval. And we'll get into this a little bit more. That means that you're practicing words with longer and longer breaks between the times that you see them. So in the example below, you could see that she's naming the word glasses, and then 3 days later, she's going to try to name it again. And its research suggests that these longer breaks may help to strengthen memory and make words easier to remember over time. So that sounds great, and it is great, but how does the program decide how soon you should see these words? Well, the program adapts to you. After you see the word, you rate how easy or how hard it was to remember. So for example, let's say you're a person that likes asparagus, and that is a word you chose to work on in the study. So if the word's asparagus, you would decide how well you remembered it. So you'd see the picture, you'd be prompted to name it and to describe it, and then you would rate it. Your rating tells the program when to show it again. So if you press again, the program shows, for instance, in this example, asparagus soon. So you might see it within 1 minute from the last time you reviewed it. If you were to press good here, it would wait a little longer, maybe within 10 minutes. And if you were to press easy, you would wait the longest. So you wouldn't try to name asparagus and you wouldn't see this flashcard again for 4 more days. So again, the idea here is that you're going to see the harder words more often and the easier ones less often. So really the practice is kind of tailored to you and where you're at in that moment in time, so it adapts with you. So let's see what this looks like in action, because I talk about it, but maybe this will help just to have a demo.
To start, open Anki and select the deck you would like to practice. Here we will be practicing the word practice deck. Then click Study Now. The first flashcard will appear. In this example, we see a picture of a purse and are asked to name the picture and describe it. After the user completes this task, they can click Show Answer. Then the answer will appear. Or if the user is unable to complete the task, they can also click Show Answer. In this example, the user is also instructed to write and say the target word 5 times each to reinforce it. After they say and write the target word, the user is instructed to rate how difficult they believe it was to recall the target word by selecting from options on the bottom that you see here, by selecting options like again for forgotten information, or easy for instant recalls. Anki uses these selections to dynamically adjust the frequency of future reviews. Again results in a quicker review, while easy postpones the next appearance of the card.
Okay, so now we're going to turn it over to Mara.
To start,
All right, so now that we've seen how Anki works, we wanted to discuss a little bit about what we're going to be looking at in our study. And in our study, we're going to be looking at 2 things. We know, as Amy mentioned, that we know that speech therapy does help people with primary progressive aphasia. So we're interested to see if speech therapy in combination with a home-based flashcard program known as Anki, how that affects naming. We also want to look to see if speech therapy alone, so without Anki, affects naming. And we want to know whether naming is better when you complete speech therapy along with Anki as compared to when speech therapy occurs alone. And our study is still ongoing, so we don't have that answer yet. So it's something that we're still trying to figure out. And to do that, we're looking at a few different things, but our primary goal is to look at the accuracy. So how well the pictures are named before we start the treatment, and after the treatment to determine what type of practice helps the word stay strong the longest. So we're really excited about using Anki as a clinical tool for a few different reasons. I think the first reason, and the reason that we have here, is that it's really personalized. Using Anki lets you choose the words that you want to practice and also how you practice them. So when you use Anki, you can create custom flashcards to target the words that you'll use in your everyday life. So as Amy mentioned with our previous example of asparagus, if you're a person who really enjoys eating asparagus, that might be a word that you really want to target in therapy, and you can. But if you're someone who doesn't like asparagus, then we would not want you to be targeting that word. We would instruct you to pick something else. So Anki is really personalized because it also allows you to take your own pictures and use pictures of your own personal items or places in your environment and upload those into your flashcards. It also is really flexible because it allows you to use pictures and text and audio, so sounds and videos, and whatever modality is most accessible for you to use in your practice. So all of these features really allow you to pick how you want to practice. So for example, if you're looking at the picture, you can practice describing each word, you can practice writing the words, or you could do both, writing and describing. So again, it's really personalized and you can pick how you would like to practice and study your words. The second part that makes us really excited is that this program is free. We love free things. It's open source, it's free, it's really easy to use. There's several versions of it, so you can use it on your computer as a desktop application. There's also an online version, so you can take it with you on your phone as you go, and both of those options are free. And then lastly, for the participants in our study, this is something that doesn't have to stop at the end of the study. If our participants like using Anki, they can keep using it when the study is completed and add their own words. So for example, in our study, if they're practicing the word glasses, which falls into one of the categories we're including, but they're also an avid gardener, after the study is over, they'll learn how to add words related to gardening so that they can continue to practice those words on their own. So this program really allows for a self-directed and home-based practice, which encourages ongoing practice of your skills and ongoing word training. So again, we want to thank the National Aphasia Association for funding this and thank all of you for coming. We really are glad that you're here and that we can share this work with you. We also wanted to put a plug in because we're still recruiting for the study. If you are located in New York City, we would love to come see you in person. If you're not in New York City, but you're somewhere else in the United States, you can also participate virtually. So this is our contact information here. You can also scan the QR code that will connect to our flyer and more information about the study. So please be in touch. We would love to hear from you.
Thank you guys so much. And we will also put that information on the replay of the video here of the Ask the Expert. So we put a narrative below and it'll have all of the information. I don't see any questions related to your, but everybody's excited. If anyone has any questions, feel free to ask. I think it's awesome that this is available for ongoing. I think that's one of the concerns people often have with studies. Is it going to be just this one time period? And then what if I don't qualify? But what you're saying is that even after the study, you can be able to utilize this program to work on important words. Awesome. Amy, I have to say pasta is definitely rating over asparagus for me. So
I mean, for me as well. For me as well. I'm in the carb group, you know?
Yes. So I am going to go and share my screen and I am going to ask Anna to jump in here a little bit. One of the things I just told Anna, I was getting a little bit of a weird message on my Zoom. So if I pop off, she'll be adding it. But do you want to go from here, Anna?
Yeah, that sounds great. You might have to do my clicking.
Yep.
Yes, perfect. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how we've kind of been reimagining research at the NAA. And Maura will talk more about the NAA grant program, but what I'll talk about just briefly over the next few slides is what we've been doing on our research webpage. And this is just kind of a small step, or I shouldn't say small, but a step forward in the NAA mission to really foster research that aims to improve the lives of people with aphasia. And we're working to kind of bridge meaningful connections between researchers and individuals with aphasia and their care partners in ways that are collaborative. So first, I'm going to highlight the latest aphasia research piece of our webpage. Then I'm going to talk about the part of our webpage for individuals with aphasia, their loved ones, and clinicians to make it easier to find and participate in research studies. And then last, I'll talk about our webpage for scientists, where we're offering new ways to post about research opportunities. Next. So this is a screen capture video of latest research results. Here we have different categories of aphasia research. And I'm just clicking on one here about recovery and the brain. And what this is showing is an aphasia-friendly summary of a research article. And on the previous page, we had the different categories of research. And so in each of those categories, we have a different aphasia-friendly summary of this research. And the goal here is so that for those who participated in research, there's a way that you can access the research. It's free to get this information. It's on the NAA webpage in a way that's accessible and easy to understand. And it doesn't sit behind a paywall. It's not filled with a bunch of jargon and a 30-page research article. So this is something that is live on our webpage right now. We're working to expand it, highlighting more research papers with these aphasia-friendly summaries. And we have a tool right now. It is geared for researchers. So if there are any researchers on this call and you're interested in our tool, let me know. I have the URL down at the bottom. It's Article Friend. Right now, this tool is not meant for use by anyone other than researchers, but if you're someone living with aphasia or a care partner or a clinician and you're interested in this tool, you can reach out to us and we can provide some more information about it.
And thank you. Anna, I'm going to back up for just a second so that I can show people where this is on the website. I'm going to back up right here and see if I can pause it for a second. So most people know that the NAA launched a brand new website in June. So you're talking about our webpage. It used to be a little bit more challenging to find information. And when it was, the research was really just find a study. And so here under the research tab is what you're talking about, right? This one right here that says latest research results. And in the next part of the screen capture, you talk about these categories. And I think this is really neat because when people want to look at research, they might not want to look at all of the research, but they want to look at, hey, I want to learn more about PPA, or I want to learn more about reading. That's important to me. So what Anna's been helping us to do is to find relevant articles and put them through this article friend tool so that people can read about some of this research and actually understand what it means. So I just wanted to point this out, that this is under the tab of research. It is one tab that is being worked on a lot right now. So, and you're going to continue with that in the next slide here.
Yes. And if there are any research articles that are interesting to folks on this call and you would maybe want to have an aphasia-friendly, accessible version of that, again, reach out to us and we'd be happy to create one, communicate with the authors about it, and potentially also post it online too.
Awesome.
So we also have two other new tabs on the NAA webpage, one for finding a research study and the other for joining a research study. Or find and join, is that right?
Now, post a research.
Post. It's like, wait a second. Post
for scientists,
studies.
post a research.
So for scientists and researchers, how you can share your research study is a little bit different than what we had before. So we have two different options now. The first option is if you have a study that you would like to post on the NAA webpage, we have an online form for you to fill out that will also encourage you to make an aphasia-friendly posting of your research study.
Yeah.
That it's easy for people to find. The other option that we have is for registered clinical trials. And this option, if you're running a clinical trial, that will have to be posted on clinicaltrials.gov. And so we have a link that will directly port people over to clinicaltrials.gov where they can filter studies based on their location, inclusion, exclusion criteria, and that sort of thing. So kind of two different places for where research will live.
That's
Anything
so much
more
more
you need to add?
streamlined for researchers to post their studies.
Yep. And then the find and join a research study for individuals with aphasia and their loved ones is a work in progress, but I have a little screen capture video that will show the first part. So this new piece of the webpage will allow you to filter by different factors. So you can filter research studies by the type of study. So we have registered clinical trials, as I mentioned, observational studies. You can also filter by who the research is for, stroke, TBI, and also by location. And then once you filter according to what you want, you'll see research studies pop up. And then what I don't show in this video, because it's still a work in progress, is that once you click on that research study, so for example, if one were to click on this research study from Johns Hopkins, it will pop up with an aphasia-friendly summary of the research, what it's about, how many visits there are, and then there will be a little tab that says, help me write an email, which you can click on, and it will auto-populate an email to the person running the research study. All you would need to do is just fill in a couple of little details, and then you're in contact with the research team to figure out if it's a good fit for a research study for you. So we're really excited about that. It's meant to be easy to navigate, filterable, customizable, and Maura, is there anything else you wanted to?
Yeah, I want to thank you and Rob Kavanaugh, who helped us and really inspired us with that component of help me write an email, because so many times you see something that you're interested in doing, but it's so overwhelming. Like, I got to make a phone call to this person, or I have to write them an email. If I could write, I wouldn't need your study. Like this is just a really cool area. The other thing is that on our website under resources, we have ways to search. So let's say you're looking for a book or a podcast. You can look under a certain topic. And so you and the MRN team have developed this, filtering device, which will allow people to go, you know what? I do want to participate in a research study, but I only want a virtual study. I only want it on PPA. And you don't have to scroll 16 pages worth of studies. You can go directly there. So we are very excited about this, and we're extremely happy that you are helping us so much with that. So if you have questions on that, please put them in there. We'll continue to share as we go along. And I'm going to... I guess you had a really good slide here. I didn't forward, but this is the next section, which is what I would like to talk a little bit about. Is that when I first started at the NAA 2 years ago, I was so excited to hear that the third mission statement, which is to support the research of people that love working with people with aphasia, that want to make a true impact in their life, was available. And that came about from Barbara Martin, who was a past president of the NAA, and her amazing husband, Dan, still is on the board. It is really such a gift to the National Aphasia Association. But a grant was started in her name when she passed, and the Academy of Aphasia contributes to that as well. And so that has allowed the NAA to present 2 $10,000 grants annually since this grant was started. And it's such an honor. I'm sure Barbara would be really very happy that this happens. This grant is very competitive. We continue to get more and more submissions for every year. And so the people that just presented were last year's winners, recipients, and are working on that. There were some other ones as well. And what we hoped is that we could build on that. Well, after a conversation with a family and a business up in Maryland, there was a group that came out and said, I want to do another grant and I want to help people with primary progressive aphasia particularly. So sometimes people on this aphasia journey say, you know what, I really want to support something, but I'm not exactly sure how to make this difference. And this family put on a golf tournament last year, did again this year in June, and it was awesome. It's called Outdrive Aphasia, and it has been a real godsend for the National Aphasia Association because they contribute all of the proceeds of this golf tournament. So we were able to add this $10,000 grant. So now the National Aphasia Association gives 3 $10,000 grants. We have lots more ideas on how we can support researchers, and we hope that those researchers that are watching today will share in this conversation with us. We feel especially proud that because we received a PCORI grant award that is about core impacts of aphasia that we're working on for 2 years, that we really will help drive this research to be functional and important for people with aphasia and their families. So it is, as you will see on our NAA grant program, that we are, there is information on the Barbara Martin grant and also on the Outdrive Aphasia grant. And now I get the very exciting pleasure to be able to tell you guys about the 3 recipients of this year's awards from the National Aphasia Association. The first one is from David Ajay, and he is at the University of South Florida. I do want to mention that we got a lot of submissions and they were all amazing. So it was very hard to make this decision. I really anticipate and hope that we'll be able to do more for those researchers as well. But David's work is on the neural correlates of recursive self-feedback. So basically, this is saying that stroke survivors with aphasia can use this listening technique of listening to their errors and analyzing their own errors. Talk about ownership, right? To improve language production. And it's actually going to use neuroimaging to explore how it works in the brain. And David has shared with us that he's very excited about this grant because it will support the equipment and resources needed to complete the study and help validate a powerful communication strategy for people with aphasia. So congratulations, David. This is the first time these grants are being awarded or notified. So the second grant that we are able to give this year is to Dr. Victoria Tilton-Bolowski, and she is doing a semantic feature analysis and metacognitive strategy training. And it is actually a phase 2 study. She's at Teachers College in Columbia, so out near you guys, Amy and Mara. This project's going to compare 2 approaches to aphasia therapy and try to determine which is more effective in terms of improving naming and in communication. So one group is going to get one type of study, the other group is going to get a modified, more functional one, and they're going to really see if it would help. And this is very clinically relevant because speech pathologists don't have a lot of time often with people with aphasia, so they need to get to the work. And so it's super important. Victoria shared that she said receiving this grant is the ultimate honor. The National Aphasia Association does such important work supporting and connecting people with aphasia. And I did not pay her to say that. So thank you, Victoria. Well, I did kind of. And I'm super excited about this last one because, again, this is the Outdrive Aphasia one. This is the one that a family, talk about the power of one. This family put together this golf tournament and had all proceeds go to the NAA. And Dr. Jeannie Gallet, who I have been able to work on multiple projects with, is doing a project entitled Setting the Standard, Normative Parameters for the Progressive Aphasia Communication Toolkit. And a speech therapist love acronyms. It's called PACT. Primary progressive aphasia changes how people connect to the world. To meet the need for real-world assessment tool, Dr. Gallet's team developed the PACT. It's a conversation-based tool, and it was co-designed by 97 researchers, clinicians, care partners, and individuals with PPA. This project is going to refine and validate the PACT and make sure it's practical, reliable, and accessible. So Jean was nice enough to say that receiving the Outdrive PPA Grant Award is both an honor and a responsibility. Together, we can break down barriers to care and reimagine what communication, autonomy, and personhood look like for people living with primary progressive aphasia. So congratulations to all of our recipients this year. Again, very challenging to find the recipients, but we hope that we can even continue to provide more. And we know that the generous contributions to the National Aphasia Association go directly to help these kinds of mission programs that we have. So we encourage people to go to our website. And, you know, if you love somebody with aphasia, think about donating in honor of that person. Look at the work that's being pulled out of it. Okay, so as we wrap up, I can't believe it's almost 8 o'clock, but I do want to get to this. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen in case we have 1 or 2 questions. But the speech pathologists that need a professional development hour, you have been here for an hour, so scan that code and we will get that to you. We thank you very much. When you leave Zoom, it will have a post-webinar survey. We hope that you share those and give us some feedback so we continue. Thank you, Doreen. That's very sweet. And I agree, the family would be super, super happy. So if anyone has any questions or you'd like to pat on the back to these amazing, wonderful researchers, please go ahead and do that in the chat or in the Q&A. Would anyone else like to have a closing statement? We had a lot of material in that 1 hour. Oh, yes, I can show the
Laura, thank you for all that you do for the NAA, because you do an incredible amount, and the NAA would not be what it is without you. So your heart and soul is in it, and it's very clear, and you do a lot. So thank you.
Well, that's not what I was looking for, Anna, but I really appreciate it. Thank you.
That's what I had to offer.
Everybody knows that since I started as the executive director of the NAA, the biggest gift is that I'm able to carry forward the mission of Dr. Martha Taylor Sarno. And being a founder myself of a nonprofit organization for aphasia, I know the blood, sweat, and tears that go into that. So again, I just thank so much the trust that organization, that this organization and that Martha put in my hands and in the board's hands, and we will continue to share and improve as much as we can. There is, Tammy, there's the code again for those who might have missed it. You can also email me and I can send it to you.
It looks like we have one person who just raised their hand.
Is it in the Q&A? I don't see it in the...
Might have been a...
Everybody's sending lots of thanks. Thank you. And lots of congratulations. Because it is 8 o'clock, I'm going to stop the webinar, but I'm going to ask that if you have any questions, please send them to me at answers@aphasia.org. And once again, to our panelists, to you, the audience that are out there believing in us, you know, we can't thank you enough. We're going to go far all together. So Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right, take care, everybody. Bye-bye. We'll see you next time.
Thanks.